Well, with the possibility, of course, that Donald Trump will not be the president come January 20th, there's a lot of speculation going around, or I should say a lot of lobbying that people are doing online to get the president to pardon certain people. I guess I'll get to that, but first I want to talk about something he said yesterday that I guess is getting a bit of press traction. Trump took his first actual questions since the election from reporters, and throughout that I guess you'd call it a press conference, but he was sitting down at a table, so it's not really a press conference. He wasn't in the press room. I'm not exactly sure what he was doing, why they were there, but he mentioned that, well, of course, if the Electoral College selects Joe Biden to be president, then he'll step down, which I think is not something that should be shocking, to me at least. Perhaps to these, more unhinged journalists who thought that Trump is trying to stage some kind of coup and overthrow the Constitution or something and make himself Emperor Trump. But I think anyone with a modicum of awareness of the situation would realize that that's an absurd idea, that would never happen, at least not in our current political environment, and that Trump is very clearly trying to stay in office legally by proving that the election was stolen from him to make it so that the Electoral College does not select Joe Biden, which again is something that is not guaranteed. Their whole play here that the Trump campaign is trying to do is to block the certification of these states so that they cannot send electors to the Electoral College, or so that they send electors that vote for Trump. I mean, I guess that's their first choice, is to have the results of these states reversed, and they just say, okay, we're going to send Trump delegates, and they're pushing for that heavily, especially in Pennsylvania. Trump's attorneys have made it very clear that hey, you, Pennsylvania legislature, which is controlled by Republicans, you have the power to appoint whoever you want to go to the Electoral College. Now, I think it's highly unlikely that these various states pick Trump electors over Biden electors, but I think what's possible is that they don't send any at all, which I think is the proper move, because because of how many votes are in question here in these various states, there are multiple states where we do not know the results of the election. So those states, since they didn't run their election right, they should not have a vote in the Electoral College. And so therefore, if three states, Pennsylvania, Michigan or Georgia, and one other state, don't send electors, then Joe Biden does not have 270 electoral votes. Now, the interesting thing is, if only Pennsylvania and Michigan, or Pennsylvania and Georgia don't send electors, well, then Biden ends up with exactly 270, which puts him one faithless elector away from losing. Because if you have some wild person from, let's say, South Dakota or something vote for Faith Spotting Eagle or somebody else, or Ralph Nader or something like that, Joe Biden would be at 269 or less. He would have to have every one of his electors remain faithful to him at the Electoral College. And I think that if that's the case, there's a decent chance that would happen, even though we usually have, a few faithless electors, at least one or two. If the race really does come down to one vote, I don't think that elector would consciously try and block Biden unless he really thought that Biden, stole the election. But again, the people who are picked to be electors to the Electoral College, members of the Electoral College, there are slates of them for each party depending on who wins. So it's not just they have these people who are selected as electors and they tell them after the election, okay, here's how you're going to vote. What they do is to make sure that there aren't faithless electors. The Republicans have their slate of electors that they pick out ahead of time, and the Democrats have their slate of electors that they pick out ahead of time. And if the Republican or the Democrat wins that state, then that party's slate of electors are the ones who are sent to the Electoral College. So you're going to have 270 Democrats in that case, who are at least believed by their party to want, Donald Trump not to be president, who are going to go. So I think at that point it would be a real long shot. That would come right down to the wire, and you'd have to literally watch the Electoral College on C-SPAN or whoever broadcasts it. I don't know if anybody ever broadcasts meetings of the Electoral College. And you just have to watch to see and make sure, okay, is every one of these Democrat electors really going to vote for Biden? But the reason why I bring all this up is that Trump's language, that if the Electoral College selects Joe Biden to be, elects him to be president, then I will step down, obviously. What that does is it leaves it open right up until the meeting of the Electoral College. So even if we get past the safe harbor date, if, by the safe harbor date they're able to get Biden down to 270 votes, then all they have to do is try and convince one elector to defect from Biden and then throw it to the House, and we're off to the races. Now, normally, none of this would be under consideration. Normally, we just, after election night, the states are decided, and everyone just, goes on the assumption that, based on what the election results that we got, on the night of the election, which this time we didn't even have the results on the night of the election, that the electors are just going to vote that way, and that there's not going to be any monkey business going on with the Electoral College. In 2016, you had a lot of people who really desperately didn't want Trump to become president, who were talking about this in the media, talking about faithless electors, going, oh my gosh, well, the Trump electors could defect and vote for Hillary, and that was the meme, here's how Hillary can still win. Well, the thing about 2016 and all of that is that Hillary was not openly challenging the results of the election. She was kind of doing it in a backhanded way, talking about fake news, which was a meme that she started, believe it or not. That's what originally she said, she lost because of fake news. But she never went out and did like Trump is doing and said, okay, the election was stolen from me and I'm going to sue to block the certification in these states. I mean, nobody has put up a serious challenge since Al Gore to the election. And so that's why we have to take this seriously. That's why, we do have to discuss these scenarios. Obviously, under normal circumstances, it would not make sense to discuss all these things because they wouldn't happen. Because the candidates typically do not contest the results. This is a different year. Now, additionally, on December the 3rd, I believe it is, it's next Saturday, not tomorrow, but next Saturday, Trump will be holding a rally in Georgia. Now, obviously, this is going to be for the Senate candidates down there, I guess trying to get his base out because a lot of people, after the election was seemingly stolen in Georgia, and the Georgia Republicans just completely dropped the ball and refused to do anything, to even try and investigate things. They refused to do basic things to try and give people confidence in the election. They're not doing a signature match or anything like that. The Secretary of State lied and said he was doing an audit of the vote, and didn't do that. He just did a hand recount, which is meaningless. And so a lot of Republicans in Georgia do not trust the integrity of their elections for very good reason. So they're saying, why the hell would I go out and vote for you guys on January 5th when the election will probably just be stolen again, for one, and two, you did nothing. Election was seemingly stolen from Trump. So why should we do anything to help you? Is it you're going to run a good election now that you're the ones on the ballot? Is that how this works? So frankly, I have no sympathy for them. If they wanted to have Trump's base come out and support them this January, I would have, tried to be fair to Trump. And the Georgia State Republicans simply weren't. So if this governor wants the senator that he appointed, Kelly Loeffler, who, by the way, is an insider trader, which I don't think insider trading is such a bad thing, but it's a scummy thing to do when you're a public servant, to use your, the information that you have from intelligence briefings that were given, that you were presented by the President of the United States. If you use that to go out and trade stocks without informing your constituents, you're disgusting. And you should not be you should not be in office. That's something that this woman should have absolutely been forced out of office for by her party, just because it's politically stupid. It's insulting to the constituents. But anyway, this woman was appointed by this incompetent rube, Brian Kemp, to be the senator from Georgia. And now she's trying to run for election for the first time because it was I guess somebody retired. I can't remember exactly who. And now you have Sonny Perdue running for re-election. Both of them going to run off this January 5th. And probably both going to lose at this point, unless they somehow do something to turn around the confidence of the Trump supporters. Unless they have some kind of real signature match verification process, which results in a more realistic rate of invalidation. 0.1%, that's not going to do it. That's obviously lots of fake votes getting in there. When the government really wants to be strict on signatures, they can throw out 20 to 50%, as Robert Barnes has pointed out repeatedly. But that's true. That's not just his personal experience. That's the case. And we've seen this in the past, like in Wisconsin, when they were doing the recall election for Scott Walker back in like 2011 or something. It was right after he got elected. Initially, the signature verification, the signature standards for that petition to recall Scott Walker were absurdly low. Like there were people who signed Mickey Mouse and Adolf Hitler on those petitions, and those signatures were counted. So yeah, my advice to Trump people is that you definitely should remove yourself from the process if the Republicans are not going to fight for you, because the Republicans need to earn your vote. They don't own you. You're not cattle. Don't let the Republicans treat you the way that you accuse the Democratic Party of treating black people. Or else, you're just a bunch of hypocrites. You have no right to call out, the relationship between blacks and Democrats. How they just sort of slavishly vote for them every cycle, no matter what, no matter whether it's in their best interests or not, or whether they do anything for them, if you end up doing the same thing for the Republicans. So with that said, if you gained anything of value out of this video, I'd appreciate you clicking that like button and sharing this video. And if you haven't already, please do subscribe, because I do upload every day and I'd hate to have you miss one. So I'll see you folks back here tomorrow.